Nicki Minaj didn't just hop back on X for drama. She came straight for the throne and put Jay-Z's name on one of the boldest accusations we've seen in a minute. In a string of posts, she claimed he still owes her between $100 and $200 million tied to the TIDAL deal. Not a missing royalty check, not a small fee, but empire-level money she says never hit her account. She called it karmic debt and even told him directly to call her, like this was a score that's been sitting unpaid for years. From there, she started hinting that this was never just about business.
Well, y'all, Nicki Minaj is back on X, and she's coming for Jay-Z. So in a series of tweets, Nicki Minaj is claiming that Jay-Z owes her $100 to $200 million so far.
According to her, things shifted after a friendship with Jay allegedly got pushed towards something deeper, and she turned it down. She doesn't lay out every detail, but she makes it sound like that moment changed everything. Like quiet doors started closing, support got colder, and the industry energy around her slowly flipped.
Nicki Minaj, she went on another Twitter rant. She still got Jay-Z and Roc Nation in every tweet. She be wilding on them. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't never seen nobody come at Jay-Z this hard.
As she tweets, fans go crazy, but big platforms move weird. Some ignore the story, others clip her words in a way that makes her look emotional without touching the core of what she's saying.
Y'all really do not understand who I really am. Bring it, let's play. Y'all wanted attention, let's do it. Then she starts talking to the LAPD about something we have nothing to do with. And she's saying to Republic Records that they need to stand up for her any day now. Then she says, you'll regret it. Now, I've been going down a rabbit hole.
Why did this?
Then the commentators jump in and hit her with the same line. If someone owed you that much money, you'd be in court, not on X. They frame it as a meltdown, not a call out. And that's important because once people buy that narrative, it's easier to brush her off. On the surface, it looks like classic celebrity chaos. A superstar ranting online, blogs having fun, and everyone waiting for things to blow over.
Blogs and online platforms don't touch what she's saying, and they don't cover all of her words fully because it's Jay-Z and Roc Nation.
Well, I'll tell you this, I have no idea about their business, but if someone owed me $200 million, then I would be in court, not on X, and I guarantee you if she ever took that to court, that would be a huge...
But the way Jay-Z stays silent, the way certain outlets don't fully touch it, and the way her story gets twisted into she's just wilding feels different. It feels like she cracked open a door the industry wanted to keep shut.
Surely Nicki Minaj has dragged Jay-Z to filth. She blasts him for being evil and spiteful.
And once you follow what happens next, the money drama, the lawsuit, the hits to her home and image, it stops looking like random bad luck and starts looking like the beginning of a much bigger pattern. To really get why Nicki is this fired up, you have to go back to when TIDAL was supposed to change everything for artists.
Over and people, you know what I'm saying? Kendrick Lamar is the hottest out right now. He is though. Kendrick hot. They're going to make their money.
In 2015, she wasn't just another name on a playlist. She was one of the faces of the platform, standing next to Jay-Z, signing contract and talking about ownership and equity, not just streams and radio spins.
I hope it's worth losing everything, including your account, because Nicki Minaj has been on X saying that the blogs and online creators don't cover her and Jay-Z's back and forth the same way as they do everything else.
Well, it's not a back and forth.
It's definitely not a back and forth. I was about to, yeah, it's just been...
Behind the scenes, she says she was promised a real cut, around 3%. Not some cute promo check, but actual stake in the company. Fast forward to 2021, Jay-Z sells TIDAL in a deal worth over $300 million. Other artists are rumored to walk away with quiet payouts and fat equity checks.
Yeah, so...
What that got to do with Sister Minaj?
Because there's a lot of fans online having a conversation right now following our interview if whether or not Kenneth, who's Nicki Minaj's husband, should be doing the same for Nicki Minaj, because she's online and there's a lot of things that she's saying and different things that are happening.
That wasn't the reason she shot at Charlamagne, was it?
No, forget me. Why did she come at Keisha? I don't understand. Like, what did anything Keisha have to say?
That's when Nicki starts hinting that when the money moved, her name somehow didn't move with it. According to her, there was no big deposit, no explanation, just silence. She's telling fans she pushed TIDAL harder than almost anyone, promoted it like it was her own baby, and still watched other people cash out while she's left asking where her share went. What makes it feel even dirtier to her is the way the industry suddenly decides who gets pushed and who gets parked while she's fighting for what she says she earned. You've got people praising Kendrick Lamar as the hottest out and talking about where labels are choosing to focus their energy and their money. It's not that Kendrick doesn't deserve his flowers. It's that Nicki is watching the machine move on while she's stuck chasing a bag she swears was promised years ago. And the media, they're selective. Some outlets barely touch her side of the TIDAL story. Others skim right past the equity and the sale and just paint it as Nicki complaining again. The parts where she says she was promised ownership, the parts where she says the numbers don't add up, those don't get amplified the same way. Jay-Z never answers her directly. Roc Nation Nation doesn't put out a statement. It's like she's yelling into a soundproof room while the world outside only hears the echoes people choose to replay. At first, it might sound like just another celebrity money gripe. Big platform sells, artists feel shorted, fans argue online, and life goes on. But in Nicki's timeline, this is the point where things start to slide from unfair into dangerous. Because right after she starts pressing harder about that missing TIDAL payout, her problems stop being just numbers on a contract. They start showing up at her front door, in her bank account, and all over the headlines. Right when Nicki starts pushing harder about that missing TIDAL money, the problems stop being just online. They show up in real life with real consequences. By March 2024, headlines hit saying she and her husband, Kenneth Petty, have been hit with a massive default judgment after a German security guard claims he was assaulted backstage. They don't properly respond in time, and suddenly there's a $500,000 bill tied to her name. That's when things get scary. That same security guard's legal team doesn't just want money in theory. They go after her reality, her mansion. Legal filings pop up about seizing her $20 million plus Hidden Hills home to satisfy the judgment. Months go by, and then you see reports that the LA Sheriff's Office has officially levied the property. It stops feeling like paperwork and starts feeling like a warning stamped on her front door. The timing is what makes fans nervous, because all of this ramps up right after she starts calling out Jay-Z by name again and dragging that TIDAL equity conversation back into the spotlight. To casual observers, it looks like celebrity has legal trouble. To people watching closely, it looks like pressure, the kind of pressure that reminds you how fast wealth can be frozen when the wrong people want you quiet. Then Nicki does something that makes it clear she's done playing nice. On October 15th, she drops a bomb on social media. Her album is canceled. No long PR statement, no polished rollout, just a blunt announcement and a direct tag to Jay-Z, basically telling him, hope you're happy now. In one move, she ties her stalled music, her legal stress, and her anger right back to him. Hours later, her whole Instagram disappears, gone. For days, fans are left wondering if she's been hacked, if she deleted everything, or if someone behind the scenes told her to log off. When the account finally comes back, it doesn't return with a cute selfie or a standard promo shot. It opens with a strange AI-style image of Jay-Z in a bright pink wig, exaggerated features, and the caption, I am your karma. That picture hits like a digital slap. Some people say she's gone too far. Others say it's the first time anyone has dared to flip the power dynamic and mock him the way the industry usually mocks women. Barbz read it as a declaration that no matter how many lawsuits, levies, or headlines land on her, she's not done. She's turning the embarrassment back on the man she says started this whole mess. From the outside, it's easy to label everything as a breakdown, canceled album, vanishing Instagram, wild AI post, but to Nicki and the people who believe her, it doesn't look random at all. It looks like a woman under siege, choosing to fight with the only weapon she still fully controls, her voice and her image. And once the jokes and memes die down, something more sinister slips into focus. Because right after the lawsuits and that pink wig image, the machine doesn't calm down. It switches strategy, and that's when the radio attacks. The humiliation and the straight-up intimidation start rolling in. After the lawsuits and that I am your karma image, the industry doesn't back off. It flips the script. Instead of ignoring Nicki, certain voices start lining up to clown her. One of the loudest is Charlemagne on The Breakfast Club. He doesn't treat her claims like a serious business dispute. He treats them like a joke. He labels her the problem, calls her energy stank and nasty, and talks like she's just having a bruised ego meltdown because the game moved on without her. He repeats the same line that's been floating around. If somebody really owed you $200 million, you'd be in court, not on X. No mention of TIDAL equity, no questions about the deal, no curiosity about how that kind of money could disappear. Just mockery. And the timing is too perfect to ignore. That segment lands right after she accuses Jay-Z's camp of blocking her interviews and working behind the scenes to shut down her radio access. It doesn't sound like a random hot take. It sounds like a response. But the part that really crosses the line isn't on air. It's at her front door. Not once, not twice, but 4 times. Nicki's home gets hit with swatting call. Anonymous people call in fake emergency, and armed officers show up at her house with her toddler inside. Sirens, guns, flashlights, confusion. All because someone wants to turn her life into a live-action scare tactic. LAPD confirms the calls are false, claims they don't know who's behind it, and then moves on like it's just another prank. Nicki doesn't see it as a prank at all. She calls it what it feels like, straight-up intimidation. She tags Republic, tags people tied to Jay-Z, and says she has proof these aren't random kids being messy online. She believes they're targeted hits meant to shake her, to make her think twice every time she speaks. And then something eerie happens. Once she drags it fully into the light and starts talking about it publicly, the raids suddenly stop. No suspects, no real answers, just silence. Stack it all up, first the missing money, then the lawsuits and the threat to her house, then the radio takedown, then the cops at her door. One by one, each hit could look like regular celebrity drama or bad luck, but together, it starts to feel like a playbook. Hit her wallet, hit her image, hit her sense of safety. Wear her down until the world believes she's just unstable, not on it. And just when you think it can't get more calculated, the pressure moves into another lane, because suddenly it's not just fresh drama she's dealing with. with. It's old stories being dragged back into the spotlight at the exact moment she's trying to move forward, and that's when people really start whispering about revenge. When you line everything up, it stops feeling random and starts looking like a strategy. First came the money, hits, the missing title payout, the lawsuits, the levy on her mansion splashed across headlines. Then came the humiliation, radio guys crowning her the problem, TV voices calling her ungrateful, and outlets repeating the same storyline like they're all reading one script. After that came the mind game, social media vanishing, AI mockery, cops popping up at her door in the middle of the night. Any one of those things could pass as bad luck. All of them together start to look like a message. People inside the business say it out loud off the record. One former label exec supposedly put it this way: when a woman in this industry refuses the wrong man, they don't just cancel her, they erase her. That's exactly how Nicki's situation feels to a lot of her fans, like somebody decided she needed to be taken down a few notches, slowly, publicly, and in a way that makes it look like she did it to herself. Then you get the side characters stepping in. Gucci Mane's wife, Keisha Kawar, shows up on The Breakfast Club, praising Gucci's growth, his mental health, how he's changed. On the surface, it's a sweet, positive segment, but Nicki doesn't buy the timing at all. She snaps back online, accusing Keisha of being sent in as a kind of soft control, keeping Gucci sedated while the same machine she's fighting keeps moving in the background. And she circles right back to Charlemagne, calling him a close friend of Jay-Z, using iHeart's massive platform to do disgusting PS against families he doesn't even know. Even when she defends someone else, it circles back to Jay. When she calls out Jay-Z for allegedly blocking Lil Wayne from the Super Bowl halftime show in his own city, most of the internet drags her for it, saying she's inserting herself into mess that has nothing to do with her. But for Nicki, that's loyalty. Wayne put her on. Watching him reportedly get sidelined feels like more of the same quiet punishment she's been warning about, not just to her, but to anybody who steps on the wrong toes. By late October, things hit another level. She's days away from relaunching her billionaire Barbie brand, trying to pivot back into business mode, and suddenly the media floodgates open, not with new news, but with old dirt. Outlets start recycling stories about her husband's probation and past charges. No fresh details, no new developments, just the same headlines with a new date stamped on top. Media analysts call it a refresh cycle. You drown current conversation under a wave of old scandal, so the only story people see is the one that makes you look messy. And who's leading that cycle? A lot of the same platforms with ties, deals, or cozy relationships around Roc Nation. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but to anyone paying attention, it doesn't feel like the universe picking on Nicki Minaj. It feels like someone with real power hit the play button on a slow, grinding form of revenge. And if that's true, then it raises an even bigger question. If this is what happens when she takes aim at Jay-Z, what's really going on behind the polished walls of the empire he runs with Beyoncé? Once you start looking past the headlines, one name keeps popping up behind Roc Nation's polished image: Desiree Perez. She's not a rapper, not a singer, not a face on stage. She's the CEO, the fixer, the one people describe as the quiet strategist moving pieces while everybody else looks at the light. Her history is public, the charges, the later pardon, the climb to the top, but the way she's whispered about in these stories is different. In the rumors, she's the person you really don't want to be on the wrong side. According to people who claim they've sat in on label meetings, Des isn't just running the company. She's allegedly calling major platforms and telling them to minimize risk around Nicki. That sounds clean and corporate, but everyone in the room knows what it means. Don't book her, don't stand too close, don't give her the kind of spotlight that forces you to pick a side. Suddenly, collaborations go quiet, public appearances dry up. The same doors that used to swing open for Nicki start acting like they're jammed shut. Even inside Nicki's own house, the split is real. Republic Records, her label, is reportedly divided. Some people fight for her, others fold under pressure from the bigger ecosystem around Roc Nation. And it's not just about songs or singles. The moment she brings up that missing title money again, internal audits mysteriously start popping up. People comb through numbers, contracts, timelines. On paper, it looks like due diligence. In real life, it feels like someone turning a magnifying glass into a weapon. Around that same stretch of time, the scariest stuff hit. Those swatting incidents at her home don't just feel like random internet cruelty anymore. 4 separate raids, armed officers, her toddler inside. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not. But when you put them next to the lawsuits, the audits, and the timing of her going public, it starts to feel like a pattern you can't ignore. A pattern that says we can reach you anywhere. At court, at work, in your own living room. Then come the leaks. Private texts between people around Nicki and industry contacts suddenly start showing up on blogs that always seem to have Roc Nation exclusive. The messages paint her as erratic, hard to work with, behind on advances. None of it properly verified, but all of it perfectly shaped to feed the Nicki's losing it storyline. One former road manager puts it bluntly: it's never really about the truth, it's about wearing you down until you're too tired to fight. At this point, the picture is ugly. You've got a woman saying she was promised equity, saying she rejected the wrong man, saying she's being punished for it. You've got legal hits, media hits, and real life fear sitting in her driveway with flashing lights. And through all of it, the Roc Nation Nation's side stays mostly silent in public, letting the narrative spin while the pressure builds. But there's one person whose silence feels even louder than theirs. One name that stays untouched, even as Nicki hints that she knew more than anyone realizes, and that's when the questions stop being just about Jay-Z and start landing right at Beyoncé's feet. When Nicki dropped those two words, Beyoncé knew, the entire internet froze. Up until then, everything could be framed as Nicki versus Jay, artist versus boss, underdog versus empire. But the second she suggested Beyoncé knew what was really going on, it stopped being simple drama and turned into a question nobody in the industry wants to touch. If Jay crossed a line with Nicki, what did Beyoncé know and when did she know it? Publicly, Beyoncé stays exactly how the world expects her to be. Calm, flawless, unbothered. No comments, no likes, no shady quotes, just silent. But the whispers behind the scenes say her team is anything but still. According to people close to the scene, calls start going out to radio hosts, producers, stylists, anybody with a mic or a platform. The message is simple: don't go there. Don't feed that storyline. Don't make it look like there's a crack inside the royal family of music. And honestly, you can see why they're scared. For nearly 2 decades, Jay-Z and Beyoncé have built more than career. They've built a myth, the unshakable power couple, the gold standard, the final boss of fame and business. If Nicki's story even partly sticks, it doesn't just chip at Jay's image, it threatens to drag Beyoncé into the shadow of it too. Her silence stops feeling like elegance and starts looking like strategy. Inside the Roc Nation world, people say NDAs and loyalty clauses are getting tighter. Old agreements are being dusted off and rewritten. Staff are reminded what they can't say, what they can't hint at, and who they can't discuss. It doesn't feel like casual PR cleanup. It feels like containment, like an empire quietly bracing for impact and trying to seal every leak before the water really starts pouring in. While all of that is happening behind closed doors, Nicki is out in the open, doing the exact opposite. She's not softening anything. She's not backing down. She's calling out the gatekeepers, accusing execs of blackballing her, and hinting that she has receipts that could blow the whole thing wide open. At this point, it's not just Nicki versus one man anymore. It's Nicki versus a system. And the more pressure she gets, the more she leans on the only battlefield she still fully controls: her own page, her own words, and a fan base that refuses to let the story die. By this point, Nicki isn't just fighting for a bag or a chart position. She's fighting to prove she's not crazy for seeing a pattern everyone else keeps pretending isn't there. She leans all the way into social media as her last shield, reposting that eerie "I am your karma" image, calling out the business managers who robbed me, and saying they're still working for the very people trying to shut her up. She hints she's sitting on documents, contracts, and conversations that could flip the whole story if they ever see daylight. Meanwhile, the ripples hit people who aren't even directly in her war. Smaller artists start whispering about shows getting canceled at the last minute. Podcasters who speak too positively about Nicki say advertisers suddenly back out, hiding behind phrases like brand safety and "we'd rather not be associated with certain names right now." It's not open blacklisting. It's something softer, quieter, harder to prove, but you can feel it. Rumors say Beyoncé's team is tracking coverage too, not just watching, but keeping mental tabs on which outlets go where, who leans Nicki's way, who doesn't. That level of attention doesn't happen over a messy tweet. It happens when an empire is nervous about what sticks. And every time Nicki posts, every time she names names, it seems like another wave crashes down, a new headline, an old scandal pushed back to the front page, another concerned pundit questioning her sanity instead of her story. That's the trick. The more she defends herself, the easier it is for the machine to call it a meltdown. The narrative shifts from "is she being targeted?" to "she's emotional, erratic, difficult." It's the oldest play in the book. Take a woman's exhaustion and twist it into proof that she's the problem. Turn her pushback into entertainment. Turn her fear into memes. Turn her receipts into drama. But if even a fraction of what she's saying is true, then this isn't a meltdown at all. It's exposure, not of Nicki Minaj, but of a system that punishes disobedience, protects its favorites, and uses soft censorship to erase the people who talk too loud. Those headlines, those jokes, those endless recycled stories about her husband, they're not random chatter. They're a warning to anyone else thinking about stepping out of line. And that's where the story stops being just about Nicki, because if someone with her money, her numbers, and a global fan base can be pushed this far to the edge, swatted in her own home, stripped in the media, painted as unstable for refusing to be quiet, what happens to artists who don't have any of that? How many names were quietly blackballed before we ever learned them? How many careers ended before they started because somebody in a boardroom decided they weren't obedient enough? Nicki's fight might look messy from the outside, but underneath the chaos is a simple, ugly possibility that we're watching one of the most calculated retaliation campaigns the modern music industry has ever pulled off. A system that hits your wallet, your mind, your home, and then rewrites the story so it looks like you did it to yourself. So now the question isn't just, is Nicki telling the truth? It's, what does it say about this business if she is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know whose side you think the machine is really on. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because if this battle is half as real as it looks, this story is nowhere near finished.